The film began with a pilot who was hurrying through the airport because his flight was about to depart. He was Brodie Torrent, who was preparing to operate a flight to take off from Singapore. Before that, because he was angry, he hit a drunken guest who was messing with some flight attendants. While Torrent was trying to quickly get through the security area to board the plane, he received a call from his daughter whom he was planning to meet in Hawaii. After completing this flight, he would meet her in New Year, and the daughter was worried that he would not arrive in time to reunite and celebrate the New Year together. But Torrent still tried to promise his daughter that he would get there and he hoped there wouldn't have any delays. Finally, he went to his plane in time. Here, he was informed by his co-pilot that the flight security officer had not yet arrived. Then the two pilots got to know each other. The co-pilot had pointed out to the Torrent captain that they would encounter bad weather. While the two were talking, a flight attendant entered and informed them that their plane was departing for Tokyo. And there were 14 passengers on the flight. The captain wished to express his particular concern about the weather, and proposed a new alternative route for the flight to avoid bad weather. However, the flight attendant interrupted him and tried to convince him that the weather would clear up as they approached the atmosphere. He added that flying the other way would take even more hours. The two pilots agreed reluctantly. After that, a flight attendant entered the cockpit. She introduced herself as Pony, and informed the captain that he had work to do at the boarding gate. The captain had to leave to meet the police officers with a man in handcuffs. His name was Luis Gasta. He was guilty of murder. Captain Torrent was concerned that a handcuffed criminal would upset the passengers, so he asked the man to sit away from other passengers. The police officer was Kai. He agreed and sat down at the back of the plane with Gasta. The captain had shaken off his anxiety. He went to the flight attendants and recognized Isabella, who he had worked with before, including another colleague, Maria, who was also someone he had worked with. Then, they greeted passengers with Happy New Year greetings. Various types of passengers were seen here. Among them were Simple, a hot-tempered businessman, and an annoying young couple who used to complain about the conditions of the flight. And the captain tried to reassure them that the plane was fine and made sure to keep them safe. Another group of passengers, including Kitty and Price, are two people who have quite a large influence on social networks. They appear to be the original owners of the two chairs the police officer and the criminal were seated in. Not only are they not scared, but excited. They chose a spot nearby according to the flight attendant's instructions. As soon as they settled in, they took advantage of taking pictures of the criminal to post on the internet to pull likes. But he noticed it, and immediately glared at the other two girls. When everyone has settled into their seats and fastened their seatbelts, the Torrent captain quickly reported the flight's information to the operator. Then he took off the plane. Everything goes smoothly. The flight attendants serve their passengers, and the two pilots talk to each other about their families. However, things started to change. At that time the plane began to move into the area of the storm where they were previously known. The captain immediately issued a warning. He asked people to fasten their seatbelts. Then he contacted air traffic control to let them know about the current situation, but they had not received a response. As they were flying forward, the plane was flying deeper into the center of the storm, when suddenly a huge lightning bolt hit the plane, shaking the entire aircraft and panicking the passengers. The captain let the co-pilot take control of the cockpit. He rushed down to the cabin to reassure the passengers. Passengers' belongings were scattered on the aisle due to the recent incident. When he saw this scene, he helped the flight attendants to pick them up and explained to everyone that it was just a weather breakdown. The single guest scolded Torrent loudly. That guy thought that captain did not control the plane well. But the captain just ignored and asked everyone in the cabin crew not to let anyone unbuckle their seatbelt. Unfortunately, the situation had not improved yet. The plane continued to shake, causing the captain to lose his balance and hit his head hard, causing bleeding. He did his best to get back into the cockpit, and controlled the airplane. At that time, all power and communications were cut off. They saw a big storm in front of them. The two pilots tried everything to get the signal, but all in vain. They knew that the battery won't last more than a few minutes. In this situation, they made the decision to land the plane wherever possible. The flight attendant Boley informed everyone on the flight about the electrical problem and vehemently asked them to fasten their seatbelts. And no one was allowed to leave his or her seat, no matter what happened. Meanwhile, the two pilots tried their best to make an emergency landing. The police officer's phone was lost. The flight attendants were extremely worried about what he was trying to accomplish and they kept warning him. Clay still ignored it and decided to pick up the phone. Even though the stewardess Isabella knew that wouldn't work, she tried to save him anyway. Another bolt of lightning hit the plane, and shook the whole plane. As a result, both of them were thrown away. They were killed instantly. After that, everyone witnessed the horrifying scene. The body attendant tried to warn passengers that sit still. After what happened to the police officer, no one dared to move anymore. At that time, inside the cockpit, the captain were still trying to find a suitable place to land, but they only have 3 minutes before the engine stops. Within a few seconds, the engine would stop working. They used all their brains to find a way to land. And just as the plane was about to collide, the captain saw a path. He tried to fly the plane in that direction. But it was really hard. The plane's wings cut through the woods. Finally, the captain also successfully landed the plane. Everyone celebrated because they were safe at last. But they found out that they might be on a Philippine island. As the plane's condition was still unstable, passengers were requested to get off the ground immediately through the emergency exit. The first co-pilot got off. After that, all the other passengers also went to the ground. The flight attendant, Bunny, was examining the bodies of 2 dead people when the captain asked everyone to get off the plane. When they got off the plane safely and captain could breathe a sigh of relief, it was already dawn. Meanwhile, the airline executive was arranging a meeting about the missing Plazers 19 plane. And Scart was a former Special Forces officer who would lead the rescue operation. When they learned that the flight supervisor didn't let the Torrent pilot take another route, Scardu commander called and criticized him. The other employee revealed that the plane's signal was last received in Manila and then disconnected completely. Rescue team members discussed all possible ways to find the location of the plane. On this side, flight attendant Bunny asked the captain about the Gaspa criminal. She gave him the handcuff key she found. Then, the captain and co-pilot looked up the map to try to locate where their plane had landed. The 2 of them discovered that this was a solo island. When the co-pilot heard the name, he was stunned. He told the Torrent captain that it was an island ruled by elements of the rebel forces. They were heavily armed. They were notorious for killing and looting. The captain decided to hide the passengers so as not to cause panic. He told them we could have gone to the Philippines. He had to try to find a way to contact the airline to ask for help. Next, he helped them set up a tent outside. Then the 2 pilots went to check if they could turn the power back on. But the end result was 0. The Captain Torrance went inside the plane and raped the corpses. He was curious about the criminal gangstar. So he checked the officer's bag and found a gun for himself. He changed to another shirt. While the co-pilot prepares water to put in the captain's bag. That time, an idea popped into his head. He wanted to get help. He would accompany the criminal. After, the captain informed all passengers that it might take some time for the rescue force to get here. Torrent told them his plan and opened the cuffs for Gasta. Quickly, both of them went to seek help. That time, at the headquarters in New York, people were still searching for clues but had yet to find anything with little information that they might be in the Philippines. Scar's commander took advantage of all the relationships he had to quickly track down. He also called a detachment and asked them to perform a rescue mission. Meanwhile, while Torrent and Gasta were going deep into the jungle, the captain asked Gasta about his intentions. Because he found a stapler while searching Gasta's belongings. However, this mysterious criminal was very secretive. He didn't not provide any information. Right now, the leader of the rebel group was Junma was informed of important news by a resident who lived here, that a plane had landed here. Moreover, it was parked right next to a mine. The leader of Juma concluded that it could not be the military because his agents in the Philippines had not given him any such information. On this side, the Torrent captain was alone, because the prisoner Gasta left somewhere halfway. He found a warehouse where he could make emergency calls. After he had fixed some electrical circuits, he immediately called the airline and informed him of the whole situation. But before the person on the other end of the line could understand what was going on, the line had been cut. The captain then tried to call his daughter Daniela, who was very worried about the news of her father. No waste of time, she picked up all the information from her father and immediately relayed the information to the airline to let them know. He had just finished talking. Suddenly, the captain was attacked from behind. Torrent did their best to hold out. After a long struggle, he managed to defeat the sneak attacker. At the same time, at that time, he heard gunfire, so he also drew his gun and was ready to shoot. As footsteps approached, he was about to shoot, when it turned out, it was Gastar. Gastar then gave the captain a rifle. As they went downstairs, the Torrent captain saw a bunch of dead rebels who had been killed by Gasta. Here, they found a camcorder with video data. Through that, they learned that a foreigner had been robbed before. They were worried the same thing would happen to the passengers. Both of them ran to the plane's parking spot in the rebel car. On this side, when the passengers were overjoyed at the sound of an approaching car, they were quickly disappointed by the sound of gunfire. And realized it wasn't the rescue team they were expecting. At this time, the captain of the Torrent and Gasta also arrived. At the same time, the rebels were forcing the passengers. They took the passenger list from the hostess Bonnie and asked about the person named Torrent, but no one said who it was. Soon after, a girl tried to run away and was shot instantly. The boyfriend cried for help but was also killed mercilessly. Then they evacuated the passengers. While these people were still in shock, the Torrent captain tried to intervene to save them, but Gostar was able to hold the captain. He knew that if they ran out it would be stupid. The leader of the Juma ordered 2 subordinates to search all the passengers' things for money and valuables. Gasta took the opportunity. He and the captain arrested him and interrogated him for information. Thanks to that they discovered that they were heading for a village and couldn't get any more information. After that, the captain rushed inside the plane to locate the village on the map and leave a few messages for the rescue team. Meanwhile at the headquarters, Commander Skart has ordered the special troops to come to the island immediately. On the other hand, the Torrent and Gaspa captain reached the village where the passengers were taken hostage. Gradually take down one people after another. They found the rest of the passengers. Fortunately, there was only one guard, so both of them were easily freed. They succeed and put everyone on a bus. However, the escape would alarm other rebels. So the captain decided to distract them. He was willing to risk his life. He came out and said hello to the Jum, and pretend to act like he doesn't know who he was. They discovered him and would be beaten to death. But at the same time, the detachment arrived and opened fire on the rebels and killed a lot of people. As it turned out, they quickly found the plane and caught up with the passengers thanks to the captain's message that he left on the shirt. After that, they caught up to the bus quickly and safely put the captain on the bus. While the leader entered same anger, he immediately ordered the remaining subordinates to rush to the landing plane place. On the bus the captain received word that no relief troops would arrive in the next 24 hours. So Siobak, a member of the squad, asked for help from Torrents. And then they also returned to where the plane was parked. The Torrent captain asked everyone to put their trust in him one last time because that was the only way they could get out of here. Torrent also asked the squad to help him buy time, until he could fix something. Soon after, the rebels also arrived and began to attack, wounding one passenger. With a fierce gun battle, both sides tried their best to fight. As for the captain, he arrived at the right time. And he managed to sneak onto the plane. With the enthusiastic support of others, he finally managed to sneak inside the plane. Even though he was hit in the leg by a bullet. The first co-pilot had already restored the electrical system, so he was able to notify headquarters about the attempt to take off the plane. Mr. Skard supported while the crew and the rest of the passengers were trying to do everything to get inside the plane. Siobak and Gasta continued to fight. At this time Gasta has found the squad's bag of money. When the plane was about to take off, except for Gasta, everyone was on board. Gasta left with bag of money. And Siobak could only watch in a daze. Meanwhile, the Juma leader and one of his subordinates were still trying to stop it. The underling took a rocket launcher to shoot at the plane, but Gangstar was able to shoot him down. Just as the Torrent captain saw the rocket fly by in a different direction, so he breathed a sigh of relief. But he didn't have time to rejoice, when he saw the Juma leader pointing a rocket gun at him. He saw the plane was getting too close, he grabbed the gun. Field and shoot like crazy, but this captain was not a weak pilot. He calmed down, just let the plane take off into the air. With the help of the air traffic network, he eventually managed to connect to a nearby airport. There was just enough fuel left for the Torrent captain to land the plane successfully. He was congratulated with applause from the passengers and everyone finally got off the plane safely. The movie ended when the captain Torrently stepped off the plane with the pose of a hero. He has saved the lives of many of his passengers. How do people see the video? If everyone finds it interesting, please give me a like and a subscribe to support our channel in the upcoming videos. Thanks everyone.